Ukraine's POWs. I hope that didn't mean that, you know, the people online missed the start. There's been quite a few efforts to return POWs from Russian captivity with the assistance of some countries, which we can get into. However, as I'm guessing you all know, thousands and thousands of Ukrainian POWs remain incarcerated in Russia. And not only that, they endure pretty horrendous treatment and conditions. In a recent report by the UN Human Rights Commissioner, Volkan Türk, he reported that there's widespread and systematic torture of Ukrainian POWs. So clearly something needs to be done about this as soon as possible. And POWs need to be returned to Ukraine. So we're going to be diving into this. We're going to start, I believe, with a presentation by yourself, which my colleagues can put on the screen. So I'm going to give the floor immediately to you, Mr. Lubinets. Thank you very much for joining us today, actually for the second time today. And I like your watch a lot, huh? This is good. I hope that they make that for more than just you, huh? You can get it done. So a big welcome to you, and I'll let you kick off with your remarks.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Amanda. Good afternoon, dear participants. I will show our presentation, and we will discuss the point number 4 of peace formula and the situation with exactly 3 categories of Ukrainian people who are under torture, everyday torture by Russian Federation. There is no such crime against Ukrainians that Russia would not have committed. The Office of the General Prosecutor of Ukraine officially confirmed that more than 140,000 war crimes were committed by Russians in Ukraine since full-scale invasion started for the last 3 years. This is a deliberate policy of the Russian Federation. Currently, 111 Ukrainian servicemen are known to have been executed by Russians while taken prisoner. Such actions are tolerated by Russia's top leadership. I will note only the most recent officially recorded cases. On 23 October, in course of the offensive on the town of Selidova, the Russian military captured 3 Ukrainian soldiers, and after a while, the occupiers shot the unarmed prisoners of war. On the 1st of November, in the same Pokrovsk direction, representatives of the Russian army killed 3 more prisoners of war with automatic weapons. And the same execution happened yesterday with 2 Ukrainian soldiers taken as prisoners of war. The Russians kill POWs to demonstrate their disregard for any rules and agreements. I think that we see that Russian Federation publicly shows that Russia does not care about international humanitarian law, about Geneva Conventions, and Putin Putin publicly shows that for him and for Russian Federation, international system of protection human rights, conventions, resolutions, it's just papers, and Russia don't care about these papers. According to the UN special report, more than 95% of Ukrainian prisoners of war have been tortured in Russia. The UN special reporter on torture, Alice Jill Edwards, she visited Ukraine, and we had several meetings with her. She publicly presented documents where she recorded that number of cases of torture in the occupied territories and against prisoners of war shows that torture has become part of Russia's systematic policy in Ukraine. Exactly, Alice Edwards was the first reporter of United Nations organization who publicly presented reports That's 95% of Ukrainian POWs were under torture while they were in Russian captivity. Those who returned from Russian captivity also tell the representatives of the Ombudsman's office who are present at every exchange of prisoners of war about the torture they endured, the health conditions of the returned prisoners was critical, and many of them have lost dozens of kilograms of weight. You know, we recorded that the highest losing of weight, it was Ukrainian defender from Mariupol. He lost 77 kilograms for 5 months Russian captivity. I know him, and when we did exchange of POWs, it was a surprise for me. I met him after Russian captivity, and I didn't even recognize him. He came to me and said, Dmytro, it's me. I said, look, I can't imagine that you can lost so a lot of kilograms. He said, look, if you add every day 5 months only water or some wood, but it seems like water, you can do it. The Marine returned from captivity in course of one of the last exchanges. Yuri Gulchuk was unable even to speak and did not respond to his mother due to the electric shocks and beatings he had experienced. It was only after several weeks of rehabilitation that he was able to speak. Unfortunately, not everyone returns from the Russian captivity alive. One of them, 55-year-old Mariupol defender, Alexander Ishchenko, he died in Russian captivity. The results of a forensic medical examination conducted in Ukraine showed that Ishchenko had multiple rib fractures and a closed chest injury as a result of blunt force trauma. And you know, he was confirmed by International Committee of Red Cross as a Ukrainian POW. And as for today, we have 102 Ukrainian POWs who were confirmed by International Committee of Red Cross who died in Russian captivity. One of the most difficult categories to return is civilians illegally detained by Russia. International humanitarian law provides for an unconditional release of civilians. They are, however, held in appalling conditions without communications with outside world, adequate food and medical care. Civilians are subjected to physical, psychological, and sexual torture as Ukrainian POWs. We found a lot of places of detention on Russian side and on temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine where Ukrainian civilians stay with Ukrainian POWs. So for Russian side, it's absolutely the same people. And Russia created a systematic torture chambers against civilian and against Ukrainian POWs. I want to describe you this situation with one example. I want to tell you story Lyudmila Guseinova. She is a civilian. She had been illegally detained by Russia for 3 years. The woman said that the servicemen who came to prison brought women and men prisoners for entertainment and beatings. She heard screams all the time. She was around the clock video surveillance in the cells, and she had to stand from 6 in the morning to 10 in the evening without to right to sit down. Again, we have a lot of examples that Ukrainian civilians can't survive, and as a result of this torture, they died. Ukrainian journalist Victoria Roshina, she died in Russian captivity. She was a young Ukrainian girl. She was only 27 year old. And again, she was confirmed that she in Russian captivity. We received confirmation across international organizations. And she was famous journalist. And she was died, but I think we need to recognize that she was killed by Russians in Russian captivity. Russia systematically violates the Geneva Convention related to the protection of civilian persons in time of war, killings and injuring civilians, subjecting civilians in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine to ill treatment, and carrying out forced issue of passports and mobilization of civilians. As for today, we have information that according to UN, nearly 12,000 civilians have been killed and nearly 26,000 injured as a result of Russia's aggression. Children are among the victims too, but this number only from territory that's under control by Ukrainian government. We can't officially use numbers of victims from temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. Mariupol. This is the special tragedy of Ukrainian nation. Before full-scale invasion started, in Mariupol lived more than 500,000 civilian people. I spoke with mayor of Mariupol and with deputy mayor, and both said to me that, look, Dmytro, you can use number that's at least 100,000 civilian people were killed by Russians in Mariupol. This is only one Ukrainian city. Maybe you hear about the story of Mariupol Drama Theater. It was the biggest shelter for civilian people in Mariupol. I spoke with men who was in this shelter before one day before the tragedy, and he said, I saw at least 3.5 thousand civilian people in this shelter. 90% were women with children. For the next day, Russian Federation destroyed this building by heavy air bombs.
That was the building that had children.
Yeah, yes, it was the words children by Russian and Ukrainian language. It was very big words, and we're absolutely sure that Russian soldiers knew that on that building only civilian people, only women and children. But anyway, Russians killed all of them. One of Russia's most heinous crimes is the abduction of Ukrainian children. Almost, as for today, we have a confirmation that almost 20,000 Ukrainian children have been deported and forcibly displaced by Russia. A 10-month-old Ukrainian girl, Margarita Prokopenko, was illegally adopted by the head of one of Russia's ruling political party. His name Sergei Mironov. He is a member of Russian parliament, and he adopted a small Ukrainian girl with his wife. They changed certificate of birthday of Margarita, and now Margarita became Marina Mironova. But the most cynic situation, that's I sent several letters across our mediators to Russian side. That's look, in Ukraine, we have family with relatives of Margarita, with native elder sister of Margarita, and family wants to reunite the whole family. And can you imagine what can feel the mother who can't even talk with her child? But as for today, Russia even didn't answer, not Ukraine, but even to our partners, our negotiators. Next, Russian Federation kills a lot of Ukrainian children. I want to tell you one example and story of Tigran Aganisyan and Mikita Khanganov. Two Ukrainian teenagers were detained by Russians in Berdyansk. The boys were interrogated and tortured. Even the European Parliament adopted a special resolution regarding Tigran Aganisyan and Mikita Khanganov and demanded that the occupiers release them. But on 24 June 2023, the Russian occupiers executed them. And now we even can't to return the bodies of Ukrainian teenagers to their families. To release everyone, Ukraine introduced the peace formula. In total, it consists of 10 points. Point number 4 is the humanitarian dimension, which foresees the return of all prisoners and deportees. As the Ombudsman of Ukraine, I'm responsible for this point, for point number 4. We establish a working group for point number 4 on the level of ambassadors in Kiev. We had 7 meetings. More than 55 countries took participation on the working group meetings. And last meeting, it was a ministerial conference in Montreal, in Canada. And we appreciate that the level of Ministry of Foreign Affairs were presented in this conference. We prepared action plan, action points, and I really believe that together we managed to implement all the points from action plan. As for today, we have results. I don't know, is it good or not? But as for today, we have been returned 1,002 Ukrainian children, 3,767 Ukrainian POWs, and 168 civilian detainees. I don't know, is it a big number or not? But I know that's almost 5,000 Ukrainian families now happy, but it's not enough for us. We know that hundreds, thousands of Ukrainian people still in Russian captivity, still need our support. And we know that we can't do it alone. But together, I really believe that international society can provide additional efforts, additional push and pressure to Russian side. We should demand that the Russian Federation strictly comply with all provisions of the Geneva Conventions, demands unimpeded access of the International Committee of Red Cross and the United Nations to the places of detention of Ukrainian POWs and Ukrainian civilians. Impose sanctions against Russians involved in the abduction of Ukrainian children, executions of the prisoners of war, unlawful detention of the civilians, and violations of the international humanitarian law. Introduce international verification of the Ukrainian register of all deported and illegally displaced children. Implement the Bring It Back UR action plan. Intensify the activities of the international platform for the release of civilians unlawfully detained by the Russian Federation. Expand the implementation of reintegration and rehabilitation programs for children, civilians, and for prisoners of war. These points foresee an intensification of diplomatic measures to return deported and forcibly displaced children, unlawfully detained civilians, and prisoners of war. We know that implementation of all these points for Ukrainians means saving their lives. We know that time plays against us. We lost a lot of time. We have this unprovoked aggression by Russian Federation against my country since 2014. Can you imagine for us that's more than 10 years we fight for our independence, for our willing to be European country, to be democratic country. And you know, for us, every day, it means that we lost hundreds, sometimes thousands lives of our people per every day that we still independent country. My message, please, dear partners, when you will discuss situation, unprovoked aggression by Russian Federation against Ukraine, war between Russia and Ukraine, please try to give this message to your decision makers. That's if Ukraine lost this war, Putin will go further. Putin will open a new aggression against new country. He doesn't care about NATO, European Union. He really wants to rebuild Soviet Union, and he really wants to start this war against all democratic countries in Europe. You have the chance to finish this war in Ukraine, in Ukrainian territory. It's pity for us because we like a hostage now, but this is the good chance for you. You can use military assistance, finance assistance, humanitarian, political, diplomatic assistance to Ukraine, to Ukrainian nation. But it means that when you will support or when you are support Ukraine now, it means that you support your nations, your countries. If not, on this place of deported Ukrainian children can be children from your nation, from your country. Thank you very much. I'm ready for discussion, for answer for your questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this great presentation and for outlining, I mean, the heinous war crimes that Russia has carried out in Ukraine, for the ongoing issue of prisoners of war. We actually had here a few weeks ago defenders from Mariupol who had been in captivity in Russia. Many of their comrades still remain there, and some of the stories that they told, I mean, the ones that they were able to tell, because a lot of these guys aren't able to explain what they've been through, were really, really dreadful. Women as well, because there's also women who have been sexually abused in captivity, and many more things that they don't want to talk about. They gave us this this symbol from the Azov regiment. But could you tell us, I mean, what you would like to see from your international partners immediately? I mean, what more can they do to help secure the release of more POWs from Russia. I mean, which countries have proved to be the most successful in doing this, and why? And is there more that some of the, let's say, global South countries could actually do?
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. Yeah, we have several mediators between Ukraine and Russian Federation for implementation point number 4. First of all, we appreciate the role of Qatar. Qatar, the main negotiator between Ukraine and Russia on case of returning Ukrainian children. For returning Ukrainian POWs, we have country, United Arabian Emirates, who is, I think, successful. As a result, you saw the number of Ukrainian POWs, but that's we have been returned. I really think that countries who have direct communications, relations, economic relations with Russian Federation can be successful on a case of returning Ukrainian people, but not of all these countries are successful, and I know why. For example, I have direct communication with Qatar and with United Arab Emirates, and I know that the both countries used their own national interests, economic benefits for changing the position of Russian Federation. So that's why we appreciate that these countries really did a lot for Ukrainian people. I know, I don't know the real arguments for these countries to do it, but they continue do it. I think that's we need additional countries, additional efforts. For example, we still try to find a country who can be country with official status, protecting power country. For us, it will be new approach for protection rights of Ukrainian people who in Russian captivity on Russian side. We still discuss with our potential partners this idea. We had very good results from Montreal conference. I can't publicly say countries who are ready to try to return Ukrainian people today, but I suppose in future I will emphasize their unique role too. So we still work on sometimes even establish a new approach how we can return Ukrainian people back from Russia.
What mechanisms are in place in Ukraine for the rehabilitation? Because I imagine returning from captivity, especially if it's been torture in a long period of time. I mean, you can't just return back to your normal life. I mean, what sort of infrastructures or organizations has Ukraine developed or created to be able to help these individuals reintegrate back into society?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's exactly everyone who returns from Russian captivity needs a program for rehabilitation and reintegration. Everyone, children, even parents of these children and relatives, because when I speak with mother, one more example. I met mother. She tried to return their one child 1.5 years. She's a military, and I think Russians knew about it. She's daughter Veronica. Veronica was deported from Kharkiv region to Belgorod. And for this case, I used all our partners, all, without any success. We received the information that Russia doesn't want to return Veronica because she is a victim of some criminal crime on Russian side. So she must be on Russian side until this criminal investigation will finish. We decided it was a very heavy, difficult decision for me. We decided as a country to organize a special meeting of Security Council of United Nations, special format, area format. And I had a speech on this meeting, and after me had a speech mother of Veronica. And she said simply words. Let's look at me. It was online. She said, look at me. I'm simply Ukrainian mother, Ukrainian woman. I can't to talk with my one child more than 1.5 years. Can you imagine what I feel every day? I see representatives of most powerful countries of the world. No one can help me to bring back only one Ukrainian child. You know, she even spoke Ukrainian. Olga, she is the head of international departments of my institution. She was like translator of this meeting. And you know the result? For the next day, I received the signal from Russian side that they are ready to return Veronica. 3 days, and Veronica was in Kiev, in my office, and she saw the first time her mother, first time for 1.5 years. We were very happy, but I saw that even these few seconds, it was so difficult for mother and for Veronica that we understood that even Veronica's mother, she needs to have rehabilitation, psychological supporting. And we started this program for this family. After this, we provide for every family, for every child, for every POWs, for every civilians, special program for psychological rehabilitation and reintegration. Do we need your support? Yes. We don't have enough capacity. We don't have enough finance. We pleasantly ask our international partners, can some country establish a special program for rehabilitation? For children, we have in Ukraine, in Kiev, special child rights protection center. It's like a Barnahus format. And we want to have the same places in every region of Ukraine, the same places we need to have for rehabilitation for POWs and for civilians.
Important to get the international financing to support that. I mean, also Ukraine has a lot of veterans that also have, let's say, psychological issues from their experience that also, I'm guessing, also requires a lot of financial support. So this must be a priority for your country. I will have one more additional question, then I'll ask to the audience, as I don't want to completely monopolize you. You mentioned about children being kidnapped, and we know they're often taken to the temporarily occupied territories. I mean, the Russians, when they get them there, I mean, it's termed as like Russification. Can you explain a bit about what this actually entails? I mean, the process of Russification and the impact on these children, and what's the purpose of this Russification? What's the goal of the Russians?
All Ukrainian children on temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine and in Russian side under reversion brains, minds of Ukrainian children. I think that that's the main goal of Putin for deportation and re-education of Ukrainian children is to grow up in a new generation of Russian army. Look, it's a colonial policy of Russian Federation. We saw it in Crimea. Russian Federation occupied Crimea in 2014, then occupied part of Donetsk and Lugansk region. Then Russia started this changing identity of Ukrainian children on that territory. And now we see that on Russian army, a lot of national Ukrainians from that territory. So Russia wants to use, first of all, this population for trying to occupy a new territory. And we know after occupation, new territory, Russia will again use, first of all, this population, men, even women, children, to continue this aggression against Ukraine. All the children on temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine must identify themselves as a Russians. Russian propaganda says that Ukraine as a country never exists, Ukrainian language never exists. Ukrainian children must be members of so-called youth military organizations, even girls. All of them must be proud that now they can call themselves as a Russians, and the main goal of life of Ukrainian child must be fight for Russian so-called big motherland Russia, and the main the big heroism is to die for Russia. So this is the strategy of Ukrainian nation, but for another countries, it must be recognizing like a war crime, genocide. We have all the details of this deportation and changing identity of Ukrainian nation. We think that all international community have all the details for recognition this war crime as genocide. Genocide has 5 elements. One of them is forcibly transferring children from one ethnic group to another. What exactly did by Russians? And you know that we appreciate for the position of International Criminal Court. ICC provided 2 arrest warrants against Putin and Lvova Belova. The official base of these criminal procedures is illegal deportation of Ukrainian children. But it's not enough, because thousands of representatives of Russian authorities took participation in this procedure, took participation in illegal deportation of Ukrainian children. Where is another arrest warrants? And next, did you see the official reactions from another countries who ratificated Rome Statute? I think that Putin tries to show that now we don't have international system of protection human rights, international humanitarian law. Putin publicly visited one of the country who ratified Rome Statute, Mongolia. What was the reaction from Mongolia? Exactly, we didn't expect the reaction from Mongolia, yes. But we expected the reaction from United Nations Organization, from International Criminal Court, from the biggest democratic countries. Do you know what was the reaction? Zero. No reactions. And this is the more problems for us, because it's not only our problem, only between war between Ukraine and Russia. Look, I think that publicly we need to start to talk about this war as a war not only between Russia and Ukraine. Russia is not alone. Russia, Belarus, Iran. Do you know about weapons that Iran sold to Russia and Russia uses it every day? Northern Korea, look, soldiers of Northern Korea now fight against Ukrainian army. Now it's today and yesterday, and we have this confirmation. Where is reaction? And one country who supports Russia totally, China. All these countries, the state management of these countries, dictators. One person can decide everything on these countries. And from another side, Ukraine as a democratic country and countries who support Ukraine, European Union countries, the United States, Canada, etc. All these countries democratic. Look, we have the conditions, we have the time, we have the war between group of countries and group of countries. Is it conditions of Third World War or not? I think that in future, the historical will write about this war as a war between countries, not between Ukraine and not between Russia and Ukraine.
I take a couple of questions from the floor. Yes, here.
Dmytro Lubinets, National News Agency of Ukraine. A few questions, if I may. What kind of words you're finding to convince the Ukrainian troops not to revenge to Russians? Because we saw that, for instance, Russian prisoners of war, they're healthy and they are fed and nobody killed them on a battlefield. So that what kind of conviction you bring to the Ukrainian troops to avoid that kind of retaliation? And the second issue, especially now after the elections in the US, it has activated some kind of talks around possible compromises with Putin, between at least the United States leadership and Putin to solve the issue of Ukraine. What do you think about that? And what is the threshold of exceptions for impunity of all these crimes we have had today? And the last point, if I may, have you heard about the concentrated camps on the occupied territories? And what kind of fate is expected the Ukrainian populations if Russia prevail? This is, you know, like an explanation why Ukrainians so furiously resisting.
Thank you. I will try to be short. First of all, yeah, we have difference between Russia and Ukraine, and you're absolutely right. Russian prisoners of war are absolutely healthy. Ukraine, according to Geneva Conventions, created special camps for Russian POWs. And every 2 weeks, my team, sometimes I, visit these camps. And I even talk with Russian POWs. This is very heavy for understanding for relatives of Ukrainian POWs. That even publicly I said several times that yes, I keep by my own attention the protection rights of Russian POWs in Ukraine, because this is our responsibility. We are democratic countries. This is the difference between Russia and Ukraine. And I always use these arguments for relatives, for Ukrainian soldiers who against this position. That's, look, can you imagine that we can win this war alone? No, I can't, and no one can't. But can you imagine that we will win with our international partners? Yes, we believe that it will be. But if we will give the arguments for stopping assistance to Ukraine, and these arguments can be used like, look, Ukraine the same as Russia, so why we need to help Ukraine if it is the same? So it's a difficult for me, my person, because I feel absolutely the same according to Russian POWs as another Ukrainian people. I was born in Donetsk region. I lost everything in Donetsk region. Me, my family, some of my friends died in this war. My elderly brother, he is a military, and he was injured in front line. So it's a heavy for me person, but it's necessary for me as an ombudsman. The second about the United States. It's a hard question. You know, exactly. I think that we need to discuss this situation, and we need to change the system of international humanitarian law. We need to have special law, I don't know, for quick reaction for similar situations. The one of the reason why Putin started this war, I think, because Russia never saw the reaction of their aggressions. You know, in one international conference, I said to my colleagues, ombudspersons of all the world, that I think that Russian Federation thought about aggression against Ukraine in 1992. It was so surprise for my colleagues. They didn't understand my answer. I said, look, in 1992, it was the first time when Russian Federation occupied the territory of another independent country, Moldova. What was the reaction? Zero. Did we have effective reactions from international community? No. The next step was the first Chechnya war, the second Chechnya war, aggression against Georgia, 2008, against without any permission to heads of Russian Federation. Next, Ukraine, 2014, Crimea, Donbass. Now we have full-scale invasion. Look, on the next week, we will have 1,000 days of full-scale invasion of Russian Federation to Ukraine. We still fight, and international society still think how we can effectively react for this aggression. Russian Federation still prominent member of Security Council of UN. Russia can use this right of veto to block all reaction of United Nations organization. And we still live in this condition. Do we need changes? Yes, we need. And this is not our challenges. This is challenges of the modern world. If not, look, you see how many new aggression points grow up on the world. Middle East, the same. It's absolutely the same. Weapons from Iran. Terrorists of Hamas were trained by Russian special troop Wagner, the same countries, the same try to open a new aggressions against another countries. And we really look in, we really seriously discuss the potential aggression by China against Taiwan. Look, can we imagine people in modern worlds where really discuss it? But I think we need to show to China, to Russia, to Iran, to Northern Korea, that look, we have quick reaction, total embargo to Russian gas and oil, total close diplomatic relations, total close all economic relations with Russia. If all countries did it, we will finish this war per 1 month, not years. The United States, we have new challenge. Yeah.
Why didn't they do it? I mean, some countries are still even in Europe, buying Russian gas, or transit country for Russian gas, or they actually go out of their way to find out how they can circumvent sanctions. I mean, there's some companies actually go and ask, how can we do that? I mean, why is it? What are they afraid of?
No, they're not afraid. They have very good economic relations with Russia. It's money. But
I mean, member states have not thrown everything they could at Russia. I mean, in your understanding, why is that? Is it because they're still scared of Russia? They're scared of escalation. We can't get beyond this.
I hear this argument too several times when I hear that we don't want to provide additional military assistance to Ukraine because we are afraid new escalation. I always say, look, what do you mean about new escalation? We have total escalation by Russian in Ukraine, total. If you think that Russia will use nuclear weapon against your country, you have to become the first country against whom Russia will use it. It's Ukraine and Ukrainian army, and we are ready. But please don't afraid to give us assistance, military, finance, diplomatic, total assistance. We are not afraid, because for us, it's our war for independence. We have no another choice. Or we will win, or Ukraine will never exist. Yeah. The United States. Okay. Camps. We found a lot of camps, torture chambers in temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. When Ukrainian army liberated Kherson, 2 days, and I visited Kherson, I saw on my own eyes torture chambers and filtration camps, even for children. Look, dear partners, I spoke with Vitaly Mukharsky, здається, прізвище. Vitaly. His age 14 year old. He spent 10 days in one torture chamber in Kherson. He was beaten. He saw the tortures against Ukrainian civilians. And only one reason why Vitaly is still alive. Ukrainian army very quick liberated Kherson. This is only one reason. I know that's on temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, Russian Federation created at least about 38 camps, filtration camps for civilian population. It's like a system of torture and pressure against local population. And Russian Federation uses this system. And why, again, I try to explain to our international partners, please don't push to Ukraine to stop this war, to frozen this war on the front line, because it means for us that millions of Ukrainians will be under threats to be under torture, to be deported, to be killed, to be maimed, to be raped by Russian soldiers. Sexual crimes. We found a lot of examples, cases of sexual violence by Russians against Ukrainian people. Look, the age of youngest victim of sexual crime of Russian soldiers is 4 years old. This is information not only from Ukraine, because this information publicly was recorded by a permanent mission of UN in Ukraine. And we appreciate for this report. Can you imagine what can feel this girl, 4 years old? Women and men, a lot in Russian captivity under sexual tortures, a lot. Only by Office of General Prosecutor of Ukraine, Ukraine opened more than 200 criminal investigations on case of sexual crimes, but not a lot of victims are ready to talk. And my main goal is not to push to them to open criminal investigation. No, my goal is to protect their rights, to give medical care, rehabilitation, special program for supporting these people. And I spoke with one girl. She said to me that, look, Dmytro, even my mother didn't know about this, and I don't want to tell her about this story. I try to forget as quickly as I can about these days. And she said, thank you very much that you tried to support me, to help me, but I don't want even to talk about it. We provided for her psychological rehabilitation. Sometimes some of victims are ready to talk, but after long psychological rehabilitation.
Thank you so much. I think we ran out of time as it's 4:30, but I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today, for explaining actually these very painful topics, because it's very difficult to hear that, because many people in this room have children, we have families. I mean, who would have imagined you know, a decade or so ago that this could happen in Ukraine, our neighbor, a European country? And it's I mean, a tragedy doesn't cover it. It's, as you said, I mean, it's a genocide on so many levels. So I really hope that you get the necessary international support to be able to deal with this, whether it's from a political level, regional level, or from international organizations and whatnot, because Ukraine really needs this, but also the actual military support that Ukraine desperately needs now to actually push Russia back and get this victory. And if Europeans or any of us don't understand this, and they haven't learned anything from the lessons of the past, whether it's in 2014 or the examples that you gave, where they were prepared to take the risk of having some sort of half-cooked solution, as I can put it that way, because what Ukrainians go through every day I mean, it's hard to imagine. Even when, you know, we go to Ukraine, you spend a few days there, you can come back. But having endured nearly 3 years of full-scale invasion, Ukraine deserves more from its allies, and I hope that it will get more, and you will get all the necessary support. And I think you do an amazing job. It's a heavy, emotional topic that you deal with, huh? You know, I really have a lot of respect for you and the colleagues. So thank you for joining us today, and we hope that we can welcome you back again in the future, and hopefully have some more positive news. Thank you, and Slava Ukraine. Slava.